Alright. Hello again, adventurers, and welcome to another exciting daily vlog. This is daily vlog number 60. I need a drink. So, today, every so often, I will get recommended videos from the U of Tubes about mocap work. Specifically, there is, I don't know if it's a mocap studio or if it's just a single mocap artist that puts up her stuff. But it's a Japanese mocap artist that does a lot of, I'm assuming a lot of work for things like Overwatch and other stuff like that. Like I've watched her actually do uh, mocap work, like where they've shown her doing the mocap and then shown the actual character models doing it. I don't know if she's actually the person that does it or she's just really good at copying it, but she's a professional mocap artist. And I became slightly kind of obsessed with her specifically and with mocap in general, simply because many moons ago, I was a theater major. Yeah, the first time I went to college, I was a theater major. Um, and I was lucky enough to have a brilliant professor there who was my advisor, who was a working actor. Like he actually had made his living being an actor. And he was also a very skilled teacher. So I learned a remarkable amount because up to that point I was a very instinctive actor. I hadn't had any quote unquote training. I just understood how to kind of embody other people and other ideas and things like that. And so I acted mostly on instinct. And I was only there for 2 years. I dropped out of after 2 years to pursue a career in film, which went spectacularly well. I was a professional actor. I did actually get paid once. I was an extra in a religious film called The Road to Emmaus, which still exists on YouTube, I believe. So if you want to look that up, I'm in there. Like I actually show up. You can actually hear me speaking in it as well. The line that I said was I improvised it myself. Um, but yeah, it was on set for 9 hours. I'm on screen for less than a minute. It was awesome. Um, but anyway, in the 2 years that I was there, I learned so much more about acting and the actual kind of craft of acting, which is not something that gets talked about a lot. Like when you see, actors getting interviewed about parts, you'll commonly hear questions like, so what was it like doing this, or is it really fun, or did you do your own stunts or something like that? But actual conversations about the craft of acting are uh, relatively rare because, first of all, acting is a remarkably technical process. When you really get into it, and do you need to know like the Meisner technique, or the system? Do you need to know who Stanislavski and Chekhov are? No, you don't. And there are a lot of very skilled actors that have never had traditional study into it. In the same way that there are quite a few very skilled musicians that have no formal training. The arts in general, it's remarkable how far you can get in them, basically just kind of going off of instinct and emotion, because so much of the arts is rooted in finding a way to express certain emotions in a way that other people can relate. So it is not necessary to actually have a kind of traditional classical instruction in acting to be a good actor. However, it massively opened uh, it massively opened my ability to take roles that I never would have been able to take and approach roles in very, very different ways. And I think the most valuable thing I learned in the 2 years that I was a theater major was just how little I knew about acting. Because it wasn't so much a humbling experience because I was never that confident in my acting ability until years and years later. I always felt like it was a fluke, like I had massive imposter syndrome. And even when I was getting, like, I would, in my acting classes, I would regularly get top marks, not only from the professor, but from the rest of the class as well, because I think most of my acting classes were like 6 or 8 people in them. The theater department was not massive at the school that I went to, and so in addition to getting a grade from the professor, they also had us grade each other. And yeah, I did exceptionally well there because I am naturally talented as an actor, and so I was able to rely on that for a long time. But again, when I got to college and I started learning about all these different things, I realized how little I knew about acting and how much of what I did was just instinct. And it allowed me to know where to look to learn more, to become a better actor. So how does this have anything to do with motion capture? Well, I recently, there's a behind the scenes video for Monster Hunter Wilds, where they're showing some of the technology they used to get the game to work. And they had 2 motion capture artists there. One was motion capturing a monster, and the other one was motion capturing the player character. And the video itself is fascinating. If you're into technology at all, it's super cool because not only did they show off how the motion capture software worked, but they also showed that due to software advancements, they literally could take someone in a mocap suit and actually insert their motions directly into the RE engine, which is what powers Monster Hunter Wild. So they literally could put these 2 actors directly into Monster Hunter Wilds, and have their actions and everything happen in the game, which was fascinating and interesting. But in the comments, one of the comments was like, "Damn, how do I get a job like that? That must be the most fun job in the world." And in the comments, a lot of people were talking about, well, yeah, we're seeing the fun part, but this is stunt work effectively. It's not all fun. There's a lot of work and everything that goes into it. And other people going, God, yeah, it's the easiest job in the world. God, I wish I could get paid to just run around in spandex and look goofy. And it brought me back to one of the courses that I took in college. And it was, I think the course was called like characterization or something akin to that. And the entire semester-long course was just about various techniques you can use as an actor to create a character. And we talked about things like the system, which eventually turned into the method. And anyone that has been watching movies for the past, 20 years has probably heard of method actors, which the method is what they're technically referring to when they call themselves method actors, because they use what's called the method, which is a derivation of an acting technique developed by Stanislavski called the system. The big difference between, and they're very, very complicated, but boil it down to very, very basic things. The system is based a lot around emotional memory and trying to link your character's emotions to emotions that you have experienced or you can theorize. And so the system in and of itself is a very inside out form of character development. Basically, meaning your character comes from inside, it comes from your emotional core, and it radiates out into your physicality, your expressions, and things like that. That's what inside out means. You start on the inside, you move outward. The method is the exact opposite. It's an outside in. The method attempts to put you in the mindset of the character so you can feel the same things that the characters are feeling. And a lot of time, method actors will physically put themselves in the same situations as their characters to fully understand them. So it's an outside in experience. You try to get the physical sensations and the experience of your character, and then slowly use that to inform your emotional choices as the actor. I'm not a big fan of method actors. The method in and of itself is fine. It's not my personal favorite form of characterization, but it's a perfectly fine system. Quote unquote method actors. Method actors and method acting is a marketing term. It's used to get Oscar nominations. And the majority of quote unquote method actors that I've seen are really not that great actors. They're selfish and abusive and cause issues on sets. Like one of my favorite examples, really, really famous method actor is Jared Leto. And when he was playing the Joker for Suicide Squad, he would do things like mail dead rats to his co-stars. Because that's what his character would do, and he was method acting. He was being his character 100% of the time, so he could feel what his character feels. And that's just not cool. There are better ways to get amazing performances than terrorizing your co-stars simply because you're playing a bad guy. And I played almost exclusively bad guys. So I understand how hard it can be to kind of embody someone that's truly an evil person. So anyway, it brought me back to this characterization class because a couple of the methods of characterization didn't rely on emotion at all. Like that's always been, and it still is. It's my favorite way to create a character. Is I find their kind of emotional center, and I go from there. I'm very much a huge fan of the system. So, and I kind of like I think I've used the Meisner technique, which the Meisner technique's another acting to the thing where it's basically you repeat the same line 100 times, 200 times, to the point where the line itself becomes meaningless in a scene with another person. You can't do it by yourself. You repeat the same line or the same word or something, 100, 200, 300, however many times it takes. It might be only a few dozen for you, but until the words themselves become meaningless, and it forces you to interact with your scene partner and see what it is that they're doing and what it is that they're giving you, and you stop relying so much on the script and the words and everything like that. And it's a beautiful technique for creating really interesting, emotionally connected scenes, because eventually you put the words back in. Yeah, me personally, I'm very much a fan of the system, the kind of inside out. I like the idea of kind of feeding off your partner's stuff that you learn using the Meisner technique and things like that. But a couple different methods we learned for characterization evolved entirely through movement. You would learn to move like your character, and then those movements would help inform you of what emotions you should be having and expressing and things like that. And it's a really, really fascinating way to create a character. It very much turns the act of characterization and getting into character into a dance. And the two different methods that we use. The first one, which is a remarkably common warm up to technique, is they just put you in kind of an open space and they say, explore the space with your movement. And it sounds stupid, but when you take it seriously, it really is an effective way to kind of connect you with the space that you're in and kind of connect you with your body and everything like that. I was not a huge fan of that. I felt like a dork doing it. But once you get over the fact that I look like a moron, it really is a helpful thing. And then the second thing that we learned is this technique that I don't know if it has an actual name. I've always just referred to it as animal work. And what it was we picked a monologue. I still have the monologue mostly memorized. I've lost bits and pieces of it over the years. I have a copy of it somewhere. I might even still have a copy of it on my computer somewhere. But we picked a monologue, and then after we examined the monologue, that was another thing I learned in college, is how to write up a script. And when I mean write up, I mean absolutely 100% dissect a script, mark out the beats, mark out the emotions. For scenes that I used to do for grades, I would have to hand in somewhere between like 2 to 4 copies of a script because of all the different writing and stuff that I had to do on these scripts. You couldn't just put it on one; it'd be impossible to read. So you'd pick a script and you kind of dissect it and figure out kind of what the character was, and then you would pick an animal that most closely resembled that character. And the monologue that I chose, the basics of it is it's a comedic monologue, and basically what it is this guy has slept with his best friend's girlfriend. And he has gone over to his best friend's house and he's waiting for him to come home, basically to try and smooth the things out. And if that doesn't sound comedic, it is. The guy, there's lines in there, like my favorite line in the entire thing is he's basically he's making up shit as he goes, and he's trying to find a way to justify what he did so he's not the bad guy. And so there's a couple lines where he's going, and you're always talking about how amazing your girlfriend is and how beautiful she is. And, when you say things like, if you ever need anything, don't even ask. Well, how am I supposed to take that? And he sits down on the couch and kind of puts his arm around him and he goes, and let's be honest. She's good, but she's not that good. Okay. Bad place to go. I understand. We won't talk about that. And it's just a really funny little scene that ends on a kind of a more poignant note. But I pegged the characters as kind of a problem solver, kind of Ferris Bueller style kick a character, where things just tend to work out for him, and he's very good at thinking on his feet. And I go, well, who are the problem solvers in the animal world? And I picked a raccoon. If you've never seen the kind of tenacity that raccoons have, like they're ingenious little animals. They are they can figure out complex things. They're not quite as intelligent as something like an octopus. By the way, if you didn't know, octopuses are octopi are literally geniuses. They're unbelievably smart animals. So I picked this animal and I'm gonna be a raccoon. And then I spent like 2 weeks watching videos of raccoons and trying to figure out how to physically manifest myself as a raccoon. And I'm not particularly good at physical stuff. I wasn't then. I'm definitely not now because I'm so out of shape. But it taught me a lot, and it taught me something that I hadn't really considered for a long time. I was never a big fan of dance. I used to tell literally every single show that I was ever in where there was any sort of dancing in it. And I did musicals a lot because I could sing as well. I would tell the choreographer, I go, yeah, I can't dance. I can do choreography, so as long as you can show me what to do, I can make it look passable. But I'm not a dancer. I will never be a dancer. It's just not something that I can do. And so, because of that, I had kind of written off the movement aspect of acting completely. I was just like, I'm not a dancer, I'm not a mover, I'm an actor. And I would focus a lot on my emotions and emoting correctly and line delivery and things like that, which again still made me a very good actor. But I had kind of locked off an entire aspect of acting, which is the movement aspect of it. And when I got to college and I did this animal works, this is stuff, I started realizing how much of my characters I was just ignoring because I had completely ignored a massive part of communication in general. I've heard like various different statistics about this, but I think I can comfortably say well over 70% of communication between humans is done non-verbally. The way that you're standing, the eye contact you're making, facial expressions, things like that. And I had kind of written off the entirety of that and had focused entirely on my line delivery and things like that. And when I was doing this, it just kind of opened my eyes to just how much I had been ignoring as an actor. And I started really studying kind of the science of movement and what different types of movement can convey. I even, years ago, back when lockdowns were still a thing, I made a video series talking about how to kind of create characters as a dungeon master without, or it might have been just a single video, but without having to use accents and voices, because some people, that's just not something they can do. But you can still, even without using like all the various accents and things like that, you can still create a plethora of characters simply by physically changing how you present yourself. Like if I want to portray a character that's maybe a little bit scareder, I might close myself off and kind of like hug you can't see me, but I'm like hug myself and bring my shoulders in and bring my chin down. And when I'm, running a game, if I start talking like this, and then I go back to my regular DMing voice, and then I go back like this, and you can definitely tell it's a very different character, but I haven't changed my voice very much at all. I'm speaking a little softer, but that's really about it. And then other things, if you like raise your sternum and you kind of raise your chin a little bit and you look down your nose, I'm not changing my voice at all, but simply by doing this and talking down your nose to people, it gives a very different, and that's all physicality, that's all movement based. So getting back to the idea of being a mocap artist and how easy it is, it's not, but not for the reasons a lot of people were saying in that thing. And for a lot of people will think, well, motion capture, one of the things that came up over and over and over again is like, well, it's stunt work. And stunt work is inherently dangerous, and you hurt yourself and you break bones and things like that. First of all, stunt work is not quote unquote inherently dangerous. When it is done correctly, it's 100% safe. It's the entire purpose of stunts is to make it look dangerous, but to be 100% safe. It's the entire purpose of it. However, it is very physical, and physical things in general, you are going to do things to your body that will cause issues. Sprained ankles, twisted wrists, things like that. It's not because stunt work is dangerous. It's because you're pushing your body further. In the same way that being an Olympic runner isn't dangerous, but you are significantly more likely to injure yourself training for the Olympics than you are, sitting on your ass talking to a computer. So the thing about stunt work and motion capture in general is not some, and especially when you get to the motion capture aspect of it, is not so much that it's dangerous, you're going to hurt yourself. It's you have to learn the language of movement so well that anything that you do will will express the ideas that you're trying to express without any dialogue. And that was the thing that made me enamored with this Japanese motion capture artist, is just how much she could say without saying anything. And that was the other thing that I found really exceptionally amazing about this Monster Hunter Wilds video, is just how much both of them could say without saying anything. Again, one of them was doing motion capture for a large bear-like creature. It actually is kind of like a combination of a bear and a buffalo, is kind of what it looks like. It's a weird looking creature. It's new for Monster Hunter Wilds. It's a pain in the ass to fight too. I have hunted it already successfully, and it was a dumb hunt. There were other fights and hunts in Wilds that I've done that were significantly more fun than that one. Like I just thought, I just fought a Rathalos in it, and the Rathalos fight is killer fun. But anyway, so much of what they had to do, they don't have dialogue, they don't have things like, they can't, most of the motion capture that they do is not face capture. Face capture generally is reserved for the actors doing the voice work, so that they can match the line delivery with what they're doing at their face. The large motion capture, when you're in the full rig, with a few rare exceptions, is going to be someone that's not doing the lines or anything like that. They just have to do various movements and things like that. And in order to communicate what it is that they need to communicate, they have to understand the language of movement. They have to understand that if I hold myself in this particular way, it's going to give off this particular attitude, and it's going to make people think this. Whereas if I do this, it's going to give this impression. If I do this, like one of my favorite things to watch, and you'll find quite a few different videos on YouTube of this, is you'll just watch a mocap artist on a treadmill, and they will be asked to walk like certain characters. And there are also like voice actors or just random YouTubers that will do the same thing significantly worse, because again, they don't understand the language of movement. But you watch an actual like really skilled mocap artist do it, and it's amazing to watch them just change the gait of their walk and just how they move through an environment, and it gives a completely different message. It gives a completely different feeling. And to me, that is the hard part about being a motion capture artist. It's not the, oh, it's so physical and you're going to hurt yourself. You're really not. Not if it's being done correctly, because if it was that dangerous, then they wouldn't be able to get people to do it, especially for the money that they offer. I don't know specifics, but I'm relatively certain mocap artists do not make like Will Smith levels of money. So the idea that it's so dangerous, it's really not. Yes, there's a greater chance of you straining yourself or hurting yourself doing it, in the same way that it's significantly more likely for a voiceover artist to strain their voice than it is for a computer programmer. It's because they're using their voice significantly more and in significantly more stressful ways. Same thing is true about motion capture. You're just doing more of it. But the thing that really makes motion capture difficult is understanding how to communicate with your body the exact way that the designers want it to work. And to me, that's absolutely fascinating. So, yeah, interested to hear from you guys. Have you guys ever thought about stuff like that? Is this just a really actor thing? Because it's a conversation I've had with my acting friends quite a few different times. The kind of language of motion is something that you talk about when you're having highfalutin acting conversations. But non-actors, it's just something that they've never thought about, because so much of nonverbal communication is instinctive. They never have to think about what they're doing. They just do it. So, Yeah. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments down below. Otherwise, again, it's all for me today. I'll see you guys next time. All right? Bye-bye.